Hello. Hello. Hey, Diane. Hello. Welcome. Welcome. This is Giacomo and from Venice. And we're about to start a tour on the Jewish Ghetto here in Venice. Let's wait for another minute, about a minute. And thank you for joining. Thank you for supporting this tour. Um, I can see only a few of you for the moment. But I would like to tell that I would to all remind, if you already know, that I'm now doing tours with the platform called the Globetrotters. And the Globetrotters is platform created by a French guy, Mathieu, who lives in Brazil. And they used to deliver only tours in French until a while ago. But after the closure of Hego, they decided to open also to the English-speaking voyager travelers. Sorry, so I did a couple of tours so far, and if you are following me on Facebook, or if you subscribed to the Google Calendar that John put up, you can see my future tours on Globetrotters. I think I will continue doing tours also on YouTube. This is a moment of transition. I don't know yet what exactly I will do. Anyway, so I guess apart from Diane, is there anybody else? No, Cynthia, not Diane. Oh, no, correct. Diane, sorry, Diane. Diane Gigliotti. Okay, I can understand Diane has an Italian origin, I guess. Hello, Heidi. So, that's, okay, I can read 8 people, but I'm never so sure of what I read on here on YouTube. So if you message, if you write, text something on the chat, I would be glad for this. Linda, hello, welcome. Okay, so let me check the time. Yes, it's fine. Hi, Judith from the Bronx. We have already it's from San Bernard. Okay, that's why Gigliotti. I understand. I know. I don't know this. It must be a small town, this San Bernardo in Calabria, because I don't think I know it. Anyway, why don't we start? So let me change the camera first. Let me show. Quite predictably, we are on the edge of a canal. This is Rio de la Misericordia. It's called Rio. And Rio because only larger, wider canals have in the city, inside the city, there are only 2 that we call canals, that are the Grand Canal and a canal that I will show you at the end of the tour that is called Canale di Cannareggio. All the other inner canals are called Rio, R-I-O, and so it's something coming from Latin. So the same word can be found in Spanish as well, but in Spanish it means a river. Here in Venice, only in Venice, we use that word to refer to the inner canals, and this is quite a wide canal, but still it's Rio. The bridge I'm showing you now, it's quite a relatively modern bridge, because you should know that metal bridge like this one, this is in cast iron. Metal bridges date back only to the mid 19th century. It was the time in which Many bridges were built in the city. Many canals were filled, and the pedestrian circulation was favored, while until the Republic of Venice was still alive, it was the boat the main means of transportation around the city. People didn't walk long distances because there was no need, first of all, to walk from one, I don't know, one point to another far point in the city. And as well, also because there were not so many bridges, and walking wanted implied to do long circles, longer routes to get to one point to another. So, especially in the 19th century, many bridges were built, many canals were filled, and this is an example of quite recent bridges dating back to the mid 19th century. Anyway, on the other side of the canal, you can see these small buildings. There is another one on the other side of the canal, because that was the entrance to the ghetto, to the Jewish ghetto. In those buildings, there used to be the wardens, because where I'm standing now, and then I'm going to show it to you in a moment. Where I'm standing now, there used to be a wall with a gate. The gate was closed at night. You see that is the other small building. So there are two small buildings on the other side of the canal. And where I'm standing now, that is already the ghetto. There used to be a wall with a gate, and the entrance to the ghetto was closed at midnight. Yeah, could not exit, and nobody could get inside the ghetto. So during night, people were forced to stay in here, and there were also several fines if you were caught, if you, a a Jewish person was caught outside of the boundaries of the Jewish ghetto. Okay, why the ghetto? First of all, this is the oldest ever built ghetto in the world, because it was a decision of the main bodies of the Republic of Venice, the Senate, the so-called Maggior Consiglio, the Major Council, that decided that Jews had to live in an enclosed area. And it was decided that in 1516, so about centuries ago. So in March 1516, the Doge at the time, that was called Leonardo Loredan, signed this law, this act, and finally the Jews of Venice, and that meant not only people from Venice, actually from Venice, but also Jews who arrived to the city to live and work. Those people at the time were forced somehow to live in this area that you see now. This Campo del Ghetto Novo is the first section of the ghetto, the one that was established in 1516. Today is a pleasant, lively area. Many tourists, of course, but it's typical of Venice. But there are also there are not many Jews living in Venice. But the traditions of the Jewish life in the city, and not only in the city, is the traditions are kept alive by, like, you see those people here on the left. I don't want to disturb anybody. I don't want to bother. Just to show you that there is a community of people who actually come from North America. Many of them come from New Jersey. They are so-called the traditional that continue to keep a traditional way of living, and they come here to Venice to restore those ways of living, those traditions that actually were going to disappear in Venice, just because not many Jews are living in Venice anymore. There is a community, and the people registered at this community today are less than 500 in the whole city of Venice. But let's go back in time again. At the time in which the ghetto was established, again, it was 1516, 5 centuries ago. There were many more, and there were problems. The Jews were always um, considered guilty of something. Persecutions were registered. I wouldn't say every day, but quite often. Even here in Venice, that was quite a tolerant city. So it was decided, also for the safeguard of the Jews themselves, it was decided to force them to live in one place. Also, Jews were not allowed to do some jobs, and uh, many of them took the job of moneylender. That was a job that was not allowed to Christians, and also many of them used to sell second-hand clothing. Um, they were called stracciaroli. Stracciaroli is not, it's quite a derogative word because it means seller of rags, rags seller. So these were the main occupation of the people. And of course, many were money lenders. And in fact, still today, we have traces of this activity. Here, there is an old sign, as you can read on top of this door, the words Banco Rosso, that means Red Bank. It was a sort of uh, bank, of course, so people could come here and ask for money, loans, ask for loans. Okay. There was not only the Banco Rosso, there were more, but we today only have one sign. Most probably other banks were underneath this portico here. So this was one of the activities that Jews were allowed to do. The establishment of the ghetto here in Venice was seen by many Jews around Europe as a way to keep safe. And in fact, after a few years, many arrived from other countries. Many arrived from other countries, especially Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, and they moved to the city not only because Venice was an important city, an important trade hub, but also because of the presence of the ghetto. That again was considered a safe haven by many of them. And in fact, this multi, uh, multicultural, multi-ethnic presence are still mirrored today in the presence of 5 synagogues. So the area is not very large. You will see this is one section. I will show you later the second section, but there are 5 synagogues. Of these 5, only 2 are still operating today. The others can be accessed only as a museum. And here we have the oldest synagogue built here in the ghetto. This yellow building here is the German synagogue. And again, if you think that the ghetto was opened in 1516, this one was built in 1528. This means in only 10 years, many people arrived from Northern Europe. It's called German, of course, but it was more of people who spoke Yiddish. That's why German. Heidi. Okay, so there is a museum actually, which is closed now because there are works on, and you can visit the synagogues only with a guided tour managed by the Jewish Museum. Yes, but again, there are two. I will show them to you later. That are still used as such, as they're still used for services. Of course, as you can see, it's quite a blank facade because no distinctive signs were allowed on the facade, but we can say that it is a synagogue because of the presence of those tall windows on the upper floor, which means that behind the windows is the hall, the assembly hall. Also, there are, if you can let me zoom, it's not very okay. On top of the five windows, one on the left and one on the right, there are two plaques with the Hebrew writings, and also under the cornice, on the very top of the building, there is another Hebrew sign that, like all synagogues, and I don't know if there is anyone now who can read Hebrew, but the Hebrews writings, they are placed on the facade of the synagogues to remember the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And so also this one, I can't read Hebrew, but I know that the the writing over there is in remembrance of the destruction of the temple of Jerusalem. So this is the German synagogues. Of course, it was sorry, it was of Ashkenazi rite. And the second synagogue here in the Campo del Ghetto Novo can be, we can see just a portion of it is that one. And you see, you can only see just a portion because the rest is inside of the building on the left. That one is called Synagoga Canton. Canton, we don't know exactly what this word refers to, because canton in Venetian means corner, and it makes sense because it's on the corner, on one of the corners of the camp. But probably it was also the French people who who paid for the construction of the synagogue. And in fact, this synagogue was for French Jews. So again, from this we know that many French people lived here in the ghetto. The Canton Synagogue was built in 1532, so only 4 years after the German synagogue. So both were Ashkenazi rites. Again, you see that it's in the corner, on the corner of the Campo del Ghetto. This box here, this is the construction site, and usually this from here you can get inside. It's the entrance to the Jewish Museum, which is hosted in this small building here, and the other one over there is a very beautiful museum. But again, it's closed now because of the works. They are doing important works, structural works, and it seems on the sign over there, it said that it should have opened already last year, but I asked a few months ago, I asked, and they told me that it's going to open next year. So probably they encountered more serious problems during the works. So again, if you come to Venice, you can visit the museum, and I recommend the visit to this museum, which is again a very important, beautiful pieces, beautiful artifacts, but also very important to understand the life of the people here in the Venice Jewish ghetto. And let me show also the third synagogue present here in the campo. That one, this pinkish building. Okay, don't look at this. This is something added in a second moment. But you see again the 5 windows on top, on the upper floor, and that uh, give light to the assembly hall behind. And again, more plaques. This is the Italian synagogue. Italian, of course, the right was for people who not only from Venice but also from the rest of Italy. Many people, many Jews arrived to Venice to live in Venice too, from Central and Southern Europe. Again, for the reason I said before. So the presence was an important presence here. The Italian synagogue dates from 1575, so about 40 years later than the German. And now the extra room, Barbara, is something that was added in a second moment, quite recent. So when the synagogue was already wasn't operating anymore as a synagogue. So, in fact, both the German and the Italian synagogues were restored. The works were finished last year, and again, they can be visited during the guided tour. A guided tour that you can book here on the spot or online, but only, again, they only open to visitors during the guided tours. So, Campo del Ghetto Novo is also a place where memorials of the Shoah, a memorial of the Shoah is present. I'm going to show it to you. We have to know why Roosevelt is born. Okay, well, so there is a group here with a loud guide, but I wanted to show you this. Okay, let's do the other. Let's do first something else, and then I'll come back here. Okay, this side of Campo del Ghetto Novo is again quite recent. This building was built in the 19th century to be a retirement home, an elderly home. And the writing on top of the entrance still says Israelitic retirement home. It was a home until about 15, 20 years ago. But again, the decreasing numbers of people here left the home almost empty. And recently it was converted into a kosher hotel. It's a hotel today, and it's the only kosher hotel here in Venice. On the facade of the campo, let's start having a look at the plaques. Many plaques remembering the sacrifice of people um, in Venice during the uh, infamous years of the Nazi occupation also of the city. And this is one that I want to talk about. You can read the name, his name, the first line. Giuseppe Iona was a doctor, as the plaque says, an illustrious physician. But during the final years, the terrible final years of the Second World War, he became the head of the secular head of the community in Venice, and the Nazi command asked him to give the list of the people and the address of the Jews in Venice. He was forced to give them mm, this list, but the morning in which he had the appointment at the German command, he committed suicide rather than giving, rather than betraying the people. Yeah, he preferred to, to die, and he committed suicide. That's why he's remembered on the plaque placed on the facade of the former retirement home. So more artworks that were placed here on this wall to remind of the tragedy of the Holocaust, the Shoah. These 7 bronze plaques that you see on this wall are the work of a Lithuanian artist called Arbit Blatas, whose mom was killed in a death camp. And he made these 7 plaques and decided to give them as a gift to the city of Venice. And they were placed here in the Campo del Ghetto. And they are, yes, Heidi, I totally agree. And you see this, they are bas relief in bronze, and they all depict tragic moments of the the years of the between 1943 and 45, the killing of so many people in the camps. Arbit Blatas, again, is a Lithuanian artist, and he made these works in 1978, and it's 7 of them. But about 10 years later, he made an 8th one. He made another one that is for the memorial that was um, made here in the Campo del Ghetto Novo. And this is the memorial I wanted to show before. Let's come back. I think the loud gentleman finished to talk. And this is quite a touching memorial because I think it's touching also because it's very simple, not a monumental, but just, you see, in this, again, quite modern brick wall, a sort of window was opened, this window you see, and there is a grate in metal. Behind the grate, there are wooden planks on which there are the names of the people who were arrested and between 1943 and 44 and killed in the death camps. Very simple, you see, name, family name, and the age when they died. The major, the largest arrests were done in December 43 and August 1944. 246 people died. in consequence of these raids of the Nazi arrests. Yeah. Mm. Sorry? No. No, no. And in the middle of the memorial is the other plaque, that the bronze plaque made by Arbit Plattes. This one dates dated 1989. The idea, the design of this memorial is of a Venetian architect called Franca Semi, and she was also of Jewish origin, and she designed the memorial with this idea of opening up a window, but behind the window there is a grate, a grid, yes, with the names of the people killed. 246 people, again, from Venice, that never came back to their Venetian house. Let me show you another frame of the Italian synagogue. From here we can see the Canton synagogue, which is behind those, and over there behind the tree is the German synagogues. And let me also tell you just a couple of things about these very tall buildings that you see on the southern side of the Campo del Ghetto Novo. This is quite unusual for Venice to have such tall buildings, but the story is that the number of people living in the ghetto grew very rapidly. So the Christian owners, you should know that Jewish were not allowed to own a house. So the Christian owners of the buildings, they just had a quick, easy solution to add more stories on top of the pre-existing buildings. And you can imagine that adding stories in Venice is never a good idea, because the foundations are built in a way that can support up to a certain weight. So adding stories in a second moment is never a good idea. So in fact, but 2 centuries ago, some of the tallest buildings were reduced, in the sense that the top stories were taken away, just because it was dangerous for the structures of the building themselves. They were so tall that they were called the skyscrapers. Of course, they are not as tall as a skyscraper at all, but considering the average height of a building in Venice, these were considered like skyscrapers. So this is Campo del Ghetto Novo. Now we go to another portion, or another section of the Jewish ghetto. Beyond this, so I'm going to cross this bridge, sorry, and we are going to the second area that was given to the Jews to live, just because the population grew. So only a few years after the establishment of the Jewish ghetto, this second portion, it was 1541, so only 25 years after, the second section was given to the Jewish ghetto. And you see, this is quite different. The first was a wide campo. This is more of a street, but a different type of lively area, because you can see many shops flanking the street. of course, restaurants. And very recently, an interesting bookshop was opened here. It's, of course, it's a bookshop specialized in uh, anything Jewish, while the restaurant here is just an ordinary restaurant. There are also a few art galleries, and like the one you see on the right here at the corner, that makes that make interesting artworks. Okay, they don't want me to show you the artworks on a video, so again, I don't want to bother. And here are two, the other two synagogues in the ghetto, in the Venetian ghetto, and the ones that I mentioned before, they are still operating as a synagogue. This is one. This is the side, the side of one. But the entrance is here, and the other one is opposite. Both these two synagogues are in this nice small campo that is called Campo delle Scole. Scole sounds like school, but it's actually Scola is a synagogue. So we call them in Venice. We call them. I don't think only in Venice, but in Venice we call them Scole rather than synagogues because it seems that it's a word coming from um, Yiddish, shul, or from shul, very probably. Uh, in Venice, the shul became a scola. So the synagogues are called the scola. The one I'm showing you now is called Levantine Synagogue, and the other one that I'll show you later is called the Spanish Synagogue. So both were of Sephardi rite, because Levantine uh, was the name applied to people coming from East. Levantine means from the East. East means people who had settled in the Eastern Mediterranean, and for example, cities like, for example, Constantinople or Thessaloniki in Greece, and they were people who originally were from Spain and Portugal. And many Jews from Spain and Portugal, after they were expelled from those countries in 1492, they moved to Northern Africa and also to the Eastern Mediterranean. And some of them, after uh, staying for years, in Constantinople or northern Greece, moved to Venice, and they built two synagogues for the rites, the Sephardi rites. So Levantine, and this is the entrance to the Spanish synagogue. It is this large, I guess this is the largest synagogue of the five here in Venice. And this is the facade of the Spanish synagogue. Yes, the door is magnificent. That's true. Let me show you again the door. Okay, let me also try to turn the camera. Oops. I hope you can have a better view of the door. Should be on one side, but you can rotate it. And now let's go to the exit of the Ghetto. Okay. And along this street here, more art galleries, but it's not only art galleries, but there is still a bakery that prepares Jewish cakes. So this is the only bakery in Venice that still makes Jewish sweets. There is we have a rabbi here in Venice, and in fact you can spot the certificate over there that certifies that the products made in this bakery are kosher. Okay, now I'm going towards the other entrance or exit to the ghetto, which is sorry, which is at the bottom of this street. And it is in this case, it's even more obvious that it was uh, a gate. There used to be a gate here. Very easy to understand how, why. And on to, and if, here you can even still see the holes, the marks of the gates, of the hinges that were closed at night. Again, gate was closed at night from midnight to about 6 in the morning, uh, and nobody was allowed to get in or out of the ghetto except for the doctors, because another profession, another job in which many Jews many Jews took was the to be a doctor, a physician. And when no Christian doctors were available, a Jewish doctor was called, and they were allowed to get out even at night. So we have arrived on the edge of another canal, and this is the canal I mentioned at the beginning, that we called really a canal, the Canale di Cannareggio. Canale di Cannareggio, Cannareggio Canal uh, joins the Grand Canal over there, goes north, and on the other side, but from here we can see, is the open lagoon, which is not very far from here. So it's a very important way that links the Grand Canal to the lagoon. So, for example, you see the boat, the yellow boat that is now at the stop. This one, for example, that one is the boat that can bring you to the airport. So they go along this canal because it is very convenient from here, from the center of the city, to get, for example, to the airport or to the mainland. And now we also have sun. This morning actually it was raining, but now it's going to be sunnier, even though still behind clouds. Okay, so I think we are done with these two. Again, check my yes, on the description. In the description of the tour, I also added the thank you, Heidi. Thank you. I added the link to the Globetrotter site, the link to my page in the Globetrotter site, where you can find more tours that I'm going to do on that platform. But also, if you continue following me, thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much. if you continue to following me on here on YouTube, you will also be notified with the future tours that I'm going to do here on YouTube. For example, I planned a tour here on YouTube for next Thursday. I will do the tour of the Piazza San Marco. While next week, I'm going to another town not far from here, Treviso, and I'm going to do a tour there. This is next Monday afternoon. And next week, it's a very important. Thank you, Diane. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, Diane, but why don't you follow me also on Globetrotters? Yeah, I think it's a very good platform. So probably we won't, in a while, we won't miss Haigo so much with Haigo, with the Globetrotters. Again, thank you very much. I was going to say that next week there will be the opening of the Biennale. The exhibition of this year is the turn of the architecture exhibition, and I'm going to be there for the pre-opening, and it's on Thursday and Friday of next week, so 18th and 19th of May. So if you are interested in architecture, or only if you want to have just a quick view of a very important event that is going to take place here in Venice, join this tour of mine. But these 3 tours of next week will be, all of them will be on the Globetrotters. Again, thank you very much for being with me in this tour. Thank you for your support. And spread the word, because I don't know how to do, but I can't. I see that my subscribers on YouTube are always about 400, not much growth here. And again, I'm not so good at marketing. But I think that word of mouth is a very good to get to know someone. So if you spread the word, I would be very grateful. Grazie e see you soon. Arrivederci.